I found a hidden phone in my new apartment. It had only one contact, and that contact was me. I never believed people when they said an apartment could feel wrong. I thought that was something people said after watching too many horror movies. When I moved into a small apartment just outside Denver after accepting a new job, I was only thinking about the cheap rent and how close it was to my office. The place wasn't perfect, but it was clean, quiet, and affordable. The landlord told me the previous tenant had moved out unexpectedly, but he didn't know many details because the building had changed management. That didn't seem unusual. Plenty of people leave apartments without saying much. For the first week, everything felt normal. I unpacked my boxes, learned my commute, and settled into a routine. Then, while assembling a bookshelf in the bedroom, one of the screws rolled underneath the built-in wardrobe. When I reached underneath to grab it, my hand touched something cold. I pulled out an old black smartphone covered in dust. The battery was somehow still alive after I charged it, which surprised me. There was no lock screen, no photos, no messages, no apps except the default ones. The contact list contained exactly one name. It simply said Ethan. That was my name. I laughed because it had to be a coincidence. Ethan isn't exactly a rare name. Curious, I tapped the contact. Instead of a phone number, there was my current number, the exact one I'd only had for 6 months. I stared at the screen, convinced I was missing something. Maybe the phone belonged to someone who had recently lived here and somehow got my number? Still, something about it felt off. I pressed call. The phone in my pocket immediately started ringing. I froze. I checked both screens. The hidden phone had just called my personal number. I had never seen this device before in my life. I couldn't explain how it knew my number. Assuming it was some strange prank, I turned the phone off and tossed it into a drawer. The next morning, I woke up to find it powered back on, sitting on my kitchen table. I knew I hadn't left it there. I live alone. I searched the apartment, thinking someone had somehow gotten inside, but every window was locked and the front door showed no signs of forced entry. That evening, I called the landlord and asked if anyone else had keys. He insisted only maintenance and management had copies, and neither had entered my apartment since move-in day. I wanted to believe him. 2 nights later, the hidden phone rang by itself. There was no caller ID. I answered without thinking. For several seconds, all I heard was breathing. Then a calm male voice said, "You're finally living here." Before I could respond, the call disconnected. I immediately checked the recent call log. Nothing. It was as if the call had never happened. At that point, I considered throwing the phone into a river, but curiosity kept winning. I started looking through every setting, hoping to learn who owned it. Deep inside the Notes app, I found a single unfinished sentence. "If you're reading this, don't trust." That was it. Nothing after those 3 words. No name, no explanation. The following weekend, one of my neighbors introduced himself in the hallway. We chatted for a few minutes before he casually asked, "So, have you started getting the phone calls yet?" I felt my stomach tighten. I asked what he meant. His smile disappeared. He admitted the last tenant constantly complained about receiving mysterious calls late at night. Everyone assumed he was dealing with personal problems because he became increasingly paranoid before suddenly disappearing. According to the neighbor, movers emptied the apartment while the tenant was supposedly away on business, and nobody in the building ever saw him again. Management simply said he had broken the lease. That story stayed in my head. I searched public records and social media until I found the previous tenant's name. Every account stopped updating on the exact same day, almost a year earlier. No goodbye post, no activity, nothing. It was as if he had simply vanished. Then I noticed something even stranger. His profile picture looked familiar. It wasn't him. It was my apartment window, photographed from the parking lot. The caption underneath read, "If anything happens to me, check apartment 214. My apartment was 214. I contacted the local police. They listened politely, but explained there wasn't enough evidence to open a missing persons investigation based on an old phone and inactive social media. I left feeling embarrassed. That night, just after midnight, someone knocked 3 times on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. Nobody. When I opened it, the hallway was empty except for a small cardboard box. Inside was a charger that perfectly fit the hidden phone, even though I had never told anyone it existed. There was no note, no shipping label, nothing. I plugged the phone in again, and this time a folder appeared that I was certain hadn't been there before. Inside were dozens of short audio recordings. Most were only a few seconds long. They sounded like someone secretly recording conversations inside my apartment. Except the dates were impossible. Some recordings were time-stamped weeks before I had even moved in. The final recording made my blood run cold. A man whispered, "He's here now. He found the phone earlier than I expected." Another voice replied, "Good. that means he'll start asking questions. I paused the recording and looked around my living room. My heart was pounding. I checked every smoke detector, power outlet, and air vent. Hidden behind the television cabinet, I found a tiny wireless camera aimed directly at my couch. It wasn't connected anymore, but it had definitely been installed intentionally. The police took that discovery much more seriously. A forensic team searched the apartment and eventually uncovered 2 more hidden devices buried behind drywall during an inspection. None of them were active anymore, but they had been there for years. The investigation finally uncovered the truth. The previous tenant wasn't paranoid. He had discovered someone in the building was secretly using vacant apartments to monitor illegal package deliveries connected to organized theft. When he realized he was being watched, he began collecting evidence. Before he could report everything, he disappeared. Months later, detectives arrested a former maintenance supervisor who had kept master keys to every apartment. During questioning, they recovered storage drives filled with surveillance footage from multiple units in the building. My apartment had been one of them. As for the hidden phone, investigators believe the previous tenant had intentionally concealed it as a backup in case anything happened to him. They never fully explained how my number had ended up as the only contact. One detective later admitted they believed the maintenance supervisor had somehow obtained tenant information from rental applications and updated the device after I signed my lease, expecting that I'd eventually find it. They wanted to know whether I would stay quiet or start digging. Instead, I accidentally uncovered everything they had spent years hiding. I moved out less than a month later. I never wanted to know what else had happened inside apartment 214, but every now and then, I still think about that phone. Because before the evidence led to several arrests, before the cameras were discovered, before the police believed me, there was only one thing connecting me to a complete stranger who vanished without a trace. A phone hidden beneath a wardrobe, waiting for the next tenant to find it.